totaling $25 billion. And while he was chair, he chose to register those two funds, even though they're Canadian, he chose to register them in Bermuda.
It's kind of funny if you think about it. The longer this illegitimate Prime Minister, Mark Carney, stays not just in power, but in the public eye, the worse it gets for him. This dude is dodging taxes by funneling money and registering his businesses in Bermuda. Jagmeet Singh is talking about it. Pierre Poilievre, I don't think he's really talked about it yet. CBC, though, is talking about it. So even the liberal-funded media is having to turn on Mark Carney and start to acknowledge his illegitimacy and the amount of corruption that he brings to the table. And then speaking of corruption, you now have all these attack ads, attack campaigns on Pierre Poilievre, accusing him and his conservative leadership race over 2 years ago of being corrupt and interfered by the Indian government. So yeah, there's a lot to take a look at in this video. I hope you stick around for the full thing. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And if you want to represent your love for this election, then head on down to the link down below in the description or the pinned comment below. You can get yourself a lawn sign. People have been sending me some photos of their lawn signs being put up, and it is absolutely phenomenal. There's also hats. There's different colored hats, different embroideries on the hats, and a bunch of stickers. If you use code SAVECANADA, you'll get yourself 20% off. Once the election is done, all of that stuff is coming off of the shelves, if we even have enough inventory to last that long. Without further ado, let's get into this. Starting off with Pierre Poilievre and all of the news associated with him in the past 12 hours. So Pierre attends the unveiling of the Conservative plane and shakes the hands with the ground crew. Here you go. Super cool. That's our next Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen. They've got everything, you know, the way they talk, the way they walk, the family, everything about it is just screaming that we're going to have a beautiful conservative government moving forward. Now let's take a look at some of the attack ads that are happening towards Pierre Poilievre, starting off with criticism of this whole security clearance nonsense. It's just so annoying, but let's see Pierre navigate these waters because he's a wizard when it comes to this.
Ready to build some homes? Oh, yeah.
The Conservative leader was ready to talk about affordable homes, but questions persist about Pierre Poilievre having his own house in order when it comes to foreign interference. CTV News has confirmed that India attempted to interfere in the 2022 Conservative leadership contest, which Poilievre won. There's no indication the meddling affected the outcome of the race.
I won the leadership fair and square.
Assisi didn't share the information with Poilievre because he refused to get the necessary security clearances to receive classified briefings on foreign interference in Canada, something his opponents seized on.
I find it downright irresponsible that the leader of the opposition, day after day, month after month, year after year, refuses to obtain his security clearance.
That to me disqualifies you as a Prime Minister candidate. It's not someone that we can trust to stand up to foreign interference.
Poilievre defended his decision to not take briefings, saying it would hamper his abilities to hold the government to account.
So they'll bring me into a dark room and they'll say, we're going to give you a little bit of breadcrumbs of intel, and then we'll tell you you can't talk about any of this stuff anymore.
However, the former national security advisor to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says being briefed on foreign interference would not muzzle Poilievre.
So holding the government to account, you can do without revealing top secret information or secret information. And he should be able to do both of those things.
Poilievre insists he's already had a security clearance because he was a minister in the Harper government a decade ago.
he is saying should be good enough. It doesn't work that way. Clearances don't last for that long. I think he's passed the date for that. So
Still, Poilievre won't waver, focusing all of his attacks on Liberal leader Mark Carney.
It's just a crock. Like, it's already been settled. There's been no meddling. Pierre won it legitimately, and it's been proven that he doesn't need that security clearance in order to get these types of briefings. He's already received all of the information that he could possibly need to see who is, been meddled with, basically. But the attacks don't stop there. The BBC News is reporting that India is accused of meddling in Canada's Conservative Party race, and they have a whole freaking hit piece. This is right at an election. This is absolutely wild. This should be almost considered foreign interference or election interference. Canada's Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, has said he won his leadership fair and square following reports that India alleged in the party's 2022 leadership race. And look at this massive hit piece. Like, that's just propaganda being pushed out to say, hey, don't vote for Pierre, or watch out for Pierre, because he's been accused years ago of something that our top officials have already debunked. And so be very careful when you're seeing the news and those headlines, and make sure that you're cross-referencing with, different sources to see if it's a hit piece or if it's actually true. Now we're going to take a look at Jagmeet Singh. One thing that is very true, unfortunate for him, but brings weirdly, funny enough, brings a huge smile to my face, is the humiliating fact that Jagmeet Singh is unable to afford a campaign plane, forced to travel by bus because his party's on the brink of filing for bankruptcy. So in this clip here, Jagmeet Singh accuses Mark Carney of deliberately registering $25 billion. Not million, 25 billion in Brookfield managed Canadian funds in Bermuda to dodge taxes. Now, that is absolutely insane. So while you and I are struggling with high taxes here in Canada, while you and I are struggling with, wrapping our heads around the fact that there's a carbon tax on top of another carbon tax on top of another carbon tax, and our fuel price is, insane. It's almost double what it should be. Our cost of living has skyrocketed because of all of these taxes, hidden taxes and climate taxes, all that stuff. The rich get richer by avoiding all this. So talk about paying your fair share. Talk about being disingenuous. Talk about breaking all the ethical violations that one could possibly do. Mark Carney is a flat out hypocrite, trying to just squeeze us to death with taxes while he's skipping out on $25 billion of any taxes going to Canada. In fact, insanely low tax rates in Bermuda. That's probably why he's doing it, right? That's freaking insane, man. These people are corrupt. Like, Justin Trudeau was no better. In fact, Mark Carney is better at hiding money than Justin Trudeau. Like, this is scary, man. We don't want these people in charge of our country.
We learned recently that Mark Carney was personally responsible for two funds. He's the chair of Brookfield Investments, but he's personally responsible for two funds totaling $25 billion. And while he was chair, he chose to register those two funds, even though they're Canadian, he chose to register them in Bermuda for the sole reason of avoiding paying taxes. Right now it's tax season. Hardworking Canadians are paying their taxes. They can't choose to register in Bermuda to avoid paying taxes. They got to pay them here. And they do that because they believe that we contribute to our healthcare system. We contribute to taking care of each other. When we pay our taxes, we're paying into a program that lifts each other up. Well, Mark Carney was not just the chair of this entire company, but personally responsible for these two funds. He chose to register in another country to avoid paying those taxes. That's less money for healthcare, less money for seniors. That's less investments in our country. Mm-hmm. And so now, just a couple months later, he wants to be prime minister. A couple months ago, he was avoiding paying taxes in our country, and now he wants to be prime minister. It makes me wonder, is he going to be working for families, for people like Michelle, or is he going to continue to favor the companies that he worked for, like Brookfield? Is he going to allow them to get away with skirting, paying their fair share? Allow them to continue to register in other countries so that they don't pay their fair share? Will he favor those companies, or will he stand up for Canadians? I think these are fair questions, and I think it disturbs me, and I'm sure Canadians are going to hear that and be disturbed as well.
Hey, this is one of those cases where the enemy of your enemy can potentially be your friend. And Jagmeet Singh shining a light on this, I think, is going to set the catalyst for other party leaders to start talking about it more openly. Maybe by the time this video goes out, maybe in the past hour, Pierre Poilievre has talked about this specific thing, but I think that this is going to start to encourage the Bloc leader, Elizabeth May, even the Green Party and the Conservatives to start leaning into that more. And, well, CBC already beat them to the punch, which is phenomenal because CBC has done such an adequate and pristine job of protecting Justin Trudeau over the past 10 years. They don't seem to be that favorable with Mark Carney. Someone in CBC is going, maybe we should switch it up a little bit. And, hey, by all means, I'm here for it, right? CBC reports that Carney's green funds at Brookfield used Bermuda tax haven to attract investors. Liberal leader says funds go to Canadian entities that pay the taxes appropriately. In his time at Brookfield Asset Management, Liberal leader Mark Carney personally co-chaired 2 investment funds dedicated to the transition to a net zero carbon economy worth a total of $25 billion. Hey, Carney, I think that we could probably solve 50% of the climate change thingamabobber that you're trying to solve if you just paid your taxes with that $25 billion. Come on back to Canada, buddy. Come on, come pay your fair share of taxes. Those funds were registered in Bermuda, among other locations, allowing investors to benefit from significant tax advantages, according to information obtained by Trudeau Canada. The funds created while Carney was on Brookfield board of directors are the Brookfield Global Transition Fund, $15 billion, and the Brookfield Global Transition Fund 2, worth $10 billion, launched in 2021 and 2024. And this is the, I'm starting to get flashbacks, man, of this whole We Charity thing and all of these companies that Justin Trudeau used to funnel money into, these multi-billion-dollar companies, and they would avoid taxes and have just the most ridiculous expenses. We're seeing an elevated version of Justin Trudeau. I've never seen this evolution happen in real time right now. Like we're watching a Pokemon evolve into its final form. The WEF Master, the ultimate scumbag, Mark Carney. Like this is freaking scary, man. This guy came out of nowhere. Now he's running in a legitimate federal election to potentially be Canada's next prime minister the legitimate way. And he's got billions, 25 billion smackaroos hanging out in Bermuda. Man, that's bananas. I've never seen nothing like that. And now let's take a look at Mark Carney try to figure out a response to this entire Bermuda scandal. Oh my goodness. Carney actually ends up dismissing a CBC reporter. Of course he does. Why would he want CBC to make this public?
Hi, Mr. Carney. Tom Perry with CBC. Could I just follow up on that? Could you explain in the case of those Brookfield funds, like what was the argument for registering the funds in Bermuda? Is it ethical to do that? And is it something as Prime Minister that you'd have to crack down on? I'm not sure if it's a problem, but is that something that you'd have to crack down on?
I think the important thing, Tom, is that the flow through of the funds go to Canadian entities who then pay the taxes appropriately, as opposed to taxes being paid multiple times before they get there. So that's how we have the structure. That's the structure that all of our pension funds, par exemple, the Caisse de dépôt, or Ontario teachers, or OMERS, municipal employees, or all the big pension funds in Canada, which are very successful, which protect union workers in many cases. I'm speaking of union workers today, and supply to them. It's those entities and their employees who are covered. So the structures work for that effect.
What's the advantage, though, of putting it into a place like
it ensures that it's an efficiency of a structure, so that ensures that the flow through goes to the entities that are resident in the countries.
But is it avoiding tax in any way?
It doesn't avoid tax because the tax is paid in, for example, the examples all I gave, the taxes are paid in Canada, yes. Okay?
Yeah, I don't know, man. If you're registered in Bermuda, you ain't paying taxes in Canada. I don't believe that at all. That is just so freaking weird. So freaking weird of Mark Carney, man. Like, how many more liberal leaders do we have to tolerate that keep having these scandals time and time again? Not even the blackface stuff. Forget that, right? Who cares about blackface? The guy's gone anyways. All of the financial scandals that Justin Trudeau was bringing to the table, We Charity, all those companies, man, putting all his family on payroll, paying his mom, all that stuff. We're seeing that at the highest form right now. The guy just got caught red-handed, literally sneaking his company into Bermuda to like a 2% tax rate or a 1% tax rate, if that, probably. And nothing, no accountability. He just squashes it like a fly, and that's it. And CBC probably won't ever bring it up again. This is freaking weird. And I really hope that Canada doesn't do what we've been doing for the past 10 years. We need to definitely get the Liberals out of power. But since we're on the Mark Carney train right now, let's take a look at what else he said in his latest speech. This one is about $2 billion for an auto industry amid Trump tariffs.
Auto workers don't just build vehicles, they build Canada. And our auto sector has always been there for our country. So in this time of uncertainty and need, Canada will be there for our auto workers. That is why today I'm announcing that the new Liberal government will create the Strategic Response Fund. This is a $2 billion fund that will protect the jobs of workers affected by President Trump's tariffs. But it'll do much more than that. It will fortify the entire Canadian auto supply chain, from raw materials to finished vehicles. Because we're not just protecting the present, we're looking to build the future. We're creating new jobs. Under our plan, we will build an all-in Canada network for auto manufacturing components. Because on average, an auto part crosses that border, often through that bridge, over that bridge, 6 times before final assembly. And in a trade war, that's a huge vulnerability, tariff as it goes into the United States each time. So what we need to do is build more of those autos and more of each auto right here in Canada. In the new world, that will be an advantage. That will help insulate us from President Trump's trade threats. And it'll grow the economy right here in Windsor and across southwestern Ontario. Until today, it's taken too long to get important projects done. Projects that leverage Canada's abundance of natural resources, including critical minerals. We have to move faster to get them approved and underway. That all changes with my government. To make business in this sector easier and more efficient, we will establish a first mile fund. We announced this last Friday with the provinces. And what this fund will do is to provide capital to build transmission and transportation networks that link extraction sites to rails and roads. We'll also establish a one-window approval process. That means eliminating duplicative federal requirements by recognizing provincial assessments for major projects. One project, one review. And we will identify projects of national significance and accelerate the time it takes to build them. One project, one review, speed, size, it's time to build.
Does anybody else, maybe this is unpopular, maybe you relate to this, does anybody else feel like going to sleep when he talks? I mean, it's even his speech is significantly worse than Justin Trudeau. Not the ums and ahs. The guy is so boring. You couldn't put a gun to my head and say, you got to be enthusiastic about this speech. I would say, shoot me. Mark Carney wants me to put myself to sleep, wants me to rip my ears off, man. There's no way this guy can possibly legitimately lead this country. An absolute snooze fest. But now let's take a look at the Bloc Québécois. Let's shift away from Mark Carney, specifically taking a look at this clip where the Bloc is talking yet again of separating next year in 2026.
You've talked about a desire for more stability before Quebecers tackle a third referendum on sovereignty, which you say should ideally be sometime after next October 2026. Wouldn't it be more stable if there was a majority government in place?
I don't think so. And you know, one of the things that would happen is that I would have in front of me a government which would be the perfect incarnation of what Canada can do against Quebec. There is no scenario in which we will not have a very democratic, open, and transparent debate about this issue. For the time being, what we have at hand in front of us is tackling the intimidation being put into place by the American president. And we must be an ally with Canadians and Mexicans and Europeans. But to be an ally, we have to be present, strong, clearly and well represented to work with partners. This is what we want to be, partners, but not submitted, not having a boss over us, and protecting and promoting our own specific interest. Afterwards, we will again have to think about the very good idea of making choices of our own, and that's making Quebec a country.
Wow, making Quebec a country. So there it is. The guy wants to separate. It's actually going to happen in 2026. Quebec is fully fed up with, I guess, getting free ride and free money. I mean, these people are holding literally the rest of the entire country hostage, right? You talk about a pipeline. Every single time a pipeline from West Coast to East Coast comes into discussion, he gets on camera and says there will be no pipeline going through Quebec. Yet all of their money, more than 50% of Quebec's money, comes from Alberta's oil and gas. Like, they're literally getting a free ride that they still want to separate. It's unfreaking believable. That's not the only clip we're taking a look at. We're also taking a look at who he wants to see as Canada's next prime minister.
Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC. You're obviously aiming to have the balance of power in a minority government situation. Whom would you prefer to be prime minister? Who would you better collaborate with? Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, or Jagmeet Singh?
You're having me feel, well, I'm not there yet, like a kingmaker. I'm not. My only purpose is to be the best possible voice for Quebecers. And I want them, and we have still several weeks before us, to think seriously if it might not be better for Quebecers to give the voice to another Quebecer. It does not mean that we would not collaborate with anybody Canadians would choose. Canadians should be happy. I'm not doing any interference in Canadian politics. I'm only trying to represent Quebec.
Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC.
Right, so there you go. He doesn't seem to really care who wins the next election, but something is pretty much set in stone. Quebec will very likely separate by 2026. And if somehow we have a liberal government at the federal level again, I think you're also going to see Alberta and Saskatchewan try to separate even this year. Like, the country is going to be completely shattered, and that's where the whole 51st state thing comes into play. So if you don't want to be a part of the 51st state, if you want Canada to remain an independent and sovereign country, well, then Conservatives are going to be your only choice moving forward. And speaking of only choice, we're going to wrap this video up with a little bit of Tom Mulcair. I mean, the previous leader of the NDP is literally against Jagmeet Singh, the current leader. You can't make this up. Let's take a look.
Start with your old party, the NDP, and concerns they could get decimated in the election, squeeze between the Liberals and the Conservatives, possibly losing party status. I understand that it's not a sure bet really in any of their ridings, including Leader Jagmeet Singh's own riding in British Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, Jagmeet's a great fighter, as we just saw in that clip, but his riding saw its boundaries redrawn, and it was not to the advantage of the NDP. And there is a lot of speculation, in fact, that he will have a great deal of difficulty holding on to his British Columbia riding. It's always been tough for him as well because he, of course, works in Ottawa. Parliament is the core of his family is in Toronto, and of course he's out in BC. It's difficult, and you can just imagine it's not made easier by this campaign, which is a snap campaign going very fast, and he's got to try to cover the whole country. He's on one of his themes, trying to personalize it a little bit around Mark Carney, which I think is a bit of a stretch because the company that he worked for had $1 trillion in assets, and it's going to be here and there. So if you want to find somebody who rents a store in a building that was once owned by Brookfield Asset Management, and you think that that's a thing, well, go for it. But I'm not sure that the average Canadian is going to follow that logic.
One of the actual only things that I really agree with Tom Mulcair is the fact that the NDP is absolutely about to get decimated. I mean, this is the risk. This is the double-edged sword, right? Of being so critical towards Justin Trudeau. I mean, in hindsight, I think maybe we're a little too critical of Trudeau because if Trudeau was running in this race, we'd still be seeing a sweeping Conservative majority. But getting back to before I misspoke, Jagmeet Singh. So critical of Jagmeet Singh, so many scandals with Jagmeet Singh, so much attention has now been diverted from Jagmeet and it's going somewhere else because Jagmeet is going to be losing almost all of his seats. He'll be lucky to get 3 seats in this upcoming election. That's how bad of a bloodbath we're about to see for the NDP. So where are all of those voters going? People no longer have confidence in Jagmeet. That's great. That's phenomenal. People are coming to their senses. But where are they going? Well, that's the problem. A lot of the voters are not going to be going to Pierre Poilievre. They're going to be going to a more progressive or an equally progressive party, the Liberals. And that is where we are in a little bit of a pickle because on one end, out with Jagmeet, but everyone is going to be then going somewhere else. And that's where that double-edged sword kind of comes into play. So I don't know, and I don't think that it's going to be enough for Mark Carney to get what he wants. I'm just happy in the interim that Jagmeet Singh is probably this is going to be his last time running for anything. I believe that after his party gets decimated, you're never going to see Jagmeet Singh enough. And I think that there's enough momentum if we keep pushing it, if we keep promoting the Conservatives and their messaging, that we can get that Conservative government that we so desperately need in order to save this country. That's in the video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe, and then also visit the link down below in the description or the pinned comment below. Use code SAFECANADA to get yourself 20% off, and I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.